We are live. Hello, everyone. Now, this is a very late stream, so what that means is first, before I get to that, you, you could be watching this from anywhere around the country or the world, and I appreciate it. And I'll be talking about some Halloween topics for, some Halloween movies and stuff for a little bit. And I will address the elephant in the room for those that may be seeing this as a rerun, maybe seeing it live, as I switch over to the other not stream but screen. And shout out to everybody watching this and the replay or watching it live. And all right, here we go. All right, so basically addressing the elephant in the room, so to speak. Basically, I I was originally intending to do the live stream, originally on Halloween, and some other matters came up on other parts of the spaceship that I had to take care of. And as I said, this will be so nobody that sees this in the future or sees it now missed anything. All right. And basically, we have Hola Latina. Good to see you. Good to see you, fam. I'm glad that you're here with me. And yeah, so nobody missed anything. I just started this live stream, and I was doing other things, on other parts of the spaceship, and I've had some interesting stuff going on. We had some, looking into the Delphi trial, and looking at, people wearing different costumes and stuff. It was an interesting Halloween. So yeah, and shout out to all of you. And what I'll be doing now is I'm going to go right into it and switch over, not the game this time, but we'll be switching over to the spaceship cats, and we'll see some interesting stuff through talking about different articles and stuff. That's what we'll be doing now. Okay, switching over. And it's actually right here. And we have to go and do this. And then we have to do this other thing right here. There we go. Shout out to the spaceship cats. Okay, so I'm gonna get the chat. Here we go. Okay, moving everything around. Alright. Okay, so basically what's going on here is this is the spaceship cats and Hola Latina, and I hope that you've been having a good Halloween and everything went well with that. And also, I will be, since you're here, I'll be talking about the Night of the Living Dead. Alright. Which I talked about it before, but since I saw the movie 2 times, I will talk about it even in a completely different way. Also because I saw it. Okay. Okay. Alright, so this is something that I did touch on very late in the other stream that I did last Friday, I believe. And so basically, the Night of the Living Dead is this movie about switching this so I could see what she's saying. Okay. I have to do a little bit more. It's okay. Because I have to see the other window. And so basically, what I'm doing now is I'm minimizing this window. I'm changing the size of the window so I could go over here and see what's going on right here. Okay. Yes, thank you. I just got home from Halloween Bash. Ah, okay. We both just got here. Because I had a Halloween Bash of my own. I was just at I call it other parts of the spaceship because there's this place right here, and then there's other areas that I'm at. That's the greater spaceship. The greater means extended part of the spaceship. So there's an extended part of the spaceship. Hello, Gam, and thank you so much for the shout out, man. You always do great work yourself. You always do great work. Earlier game, I was way earlier. Some other stuff I was dealing with. Some other stuff was going on, but I still dropped you a like and saw what you were doing, but I wasn't like active in your chat. So, Gam, thank you so much for dropping by, and I'll see you over at one of yours very soon. All right, thanks, bud. And also, Latina says, I was a vampire, and everyone thought the blood around my mouth was real. I told them it was real blood. Awesome, awesome. From my vagina, and they thought it was funny. You're awesome, Latina. You and I have a very similar. We have the same sense of humor. All right, birds of a kind flock together. Birds of a vagina flock together. Yeah, that's awesome, Latina. Awesome. Yeah. So basically, I saw some stuff and over at LA, they have a lot of people dressed up in a lot of different costumes, and people dressed up as Scooby Doo. You have some people that had they're really thick, and they had rolls. These people, and some of these women were dressed like half naked, but they were like, the size of the Grand Canyon, and that was some cringe stuff. And but your story, yeah, that sounds awesome. Your story, that's a highlight of the night. And I'm wearing this pumpkin shirt. I've been wearing the whole month, and actually, it doesn't smell bad at all. It's supernatural. Yeah, so Latina, this shirt's supernatural. It doesn't smell like anything, and wore it the whole time. Yeah. And also, Gam says, "You're fine, brother. I appreciate it. Check out the ghost stories when you get a chance. I broke, and you get to hear me cry like a girl." Okay, I sure will. I sure will go watch the replay. And also, basically, today I felt deep emotions with the YSL trial because. So, with the YSL trial today, he took the plea deal, and basically, what that is, Jeffrey Williams, he admits guilt for the crimes he was allegedly accused of, but really, in my opinion, we'll be here. We're still hanging in there. Okay, so basically, as I was saying, with the YSL trial, he admitted guilt in a plea deal. But the good news is Jeffrey Williams will be going back home. He's going home. He's free. And he made a very touching speech, and he talked about all the charity and the stuff that he's done, and he will not go to do drugs and hang out with bad people again. And it's like, that's what they didn't like about him, the DA, like Fani Willis, all these people. That's what they didn't like about him. I knew he had to do something really good for them to not like him, because Diddy and all those other idiots were able to do all the evil stuff for so long. And yeah, so it's good he's going to be going on a better path. And also, it was very, deep. I've been watching that trial for it's been going on for nearly 2 years, and Jeffrey Williams took the plea deal, unfortunately, but Brian Steele said that he could have beat the case, but, he's being suffering. He wants everybody, to go home and to end all the trouble that's going on, and he also can't take eating a bag of chips, in the prison and stuff. But this guy, in my opinion, if he really did do the drug stuff, it's good. He's going on a better path. But I really think that the state was being stupid on him, and there's a lot of corruption going on in our country. We could all agree. I don't know. I'm supposed to be talking about Halloween, but there's a lot of corruption in our country, and like what Jeffrey Williams' father said, it's turning into communism here, and we're supposed to. He thought we got rid of that, but everybody's waking up. The normies, everybody's waking up. But enough of all that stuff. So, Gam, I understand the deep emotions you feel. All right, because my day was there was emotions in my day too. All right, so shout out to all of you, Latinus' alien spaceship. I was laughing. I know you're sweeter. Your sweater smells like roses. Exactly, exactly. You know the drill. All right, so basically, the Night of the Living Dead. So for some of you that may have not seen a movie, there may be spoilers. So just a heads up about it. So basically, with this movie, it starts off in a perfect setting. It's a graveyard, and the woman's brother is being the troll and talking about the zombies, and not the zombies, but the dead people, and like pretending there's someone grabbing him from behind the grave, and basically, what happened was he saw this older gentleman wearing a tuxedo. He wasn't actually doing anything the whole movie to hurt anybody, but he just kind of walked past them and he was just kind of like mumbling some, you know, ditty language stuff. And he kind of passes by. And then this other creep thing comes at him and smashes the brother's skull on a tombstone. He was stealthed like a drone, but not quite. And then it's like a zombie apocalypse. They just come out of nowhere like a bunch of roaches, like a roach raid. And what a roach raid is, it's not this is going to be triggering to people, but basically, this is not something I deal with on a regular basis. God forbid, I don't have that. But basically, a roach raid is there's like an or better yet, say a bunch of wasps swarming. That's what the zombie raid was like in the two, which is basically in general with the movie and with that specific scenario in general. That the whole movie and in the graveyard scene, they're like swarms of wasps. But the cockroach raid, I call it, is where there's an unfortunate situation where there's a lot of cockroaches in a specific spot, and say, this doesn't happen in my house or anything, but like when you're down in this area where there's a lot of roaches because it's the right climate, and during, of course, the entire country has them and all over the world has them, but especially like say the slave trade, that's how the roaches got to the United States and the world. It was because of the Atlantic slave trade. The cockroaches came from Africa, and this was a port where I live, and this was a really great climate, and there's a lot of trees and woodlands and old houses and stuff. So it's a place where they're just like, they thrive in this area. So I don't have like and no one else in this area has like a dirty house or anything, but sometimes they'll come through here and there. But then sometimes there's been instances where outside or something they'll be like flying around and stuff. And that's what basically the zombies in the Night of the Living Dead were like. There's like one, then there's two, then three. Like a horde of wasps. So it's a herd of zombies, really, because, I've been talking about herds. So I was talking in some other group earlier about, the herd mentality. Oh, the last night, oh my goodness. Last night, the Dodgers won, and this is a conflict about me, about the East and West Coast, because I have YouTube friends on both. Some of the first streams I saw on YouTube were on the West Coast. So I do have a very strong anchor in the West Coast, and we have Cali Latina right there, and she's also one of the people I know from the West Coast. So basically, shout out to Dodgers, but I still like New York too, because I have, YouTube friends out there. But yes, the Dodgers and that area, the West Coast, very deep anchor over there too. So, shout out to the Dodgers. And people act stupid over there. And all these people go out, and a herd of people go out, and they start taking, on the live streams, they showed this, they're stealing the Jordans and the shoes. Then they go over and set this bus just wants to bring people to point A to point B. But people spray painted it and graffitied it. They took selfies in front of it, broke all the windows, set it on fire, and you guessed it, it blew up and exploded. All the bus wanted to do was bring people to point A to point B. you know? But they acted stupid. So there was a horde of people, and they were a lot like the zombies in this film that I'm talking about. And then we're talking about the herd mentality. Also, with the Delphi trial, we're talking about the herd mentality and how there's bad prosecutors and bad law enforcement and stuff. Not law enforcement's, shout out to the police and stuff. But some people, and will fall into try to get people to say things they didn't do. Like we're talking about the Delphi trial, and you have a situation where in our country, say the DA more specifically than like law enforcement really, the DA, they will try to get people to say they were guilty of something and they didn't do it. Very much like the YSL trial, and it's happening all over the place. And this is the greatest country on earth, but there has been communist infiltration, in my opinion, and it's caused a problem where this country's starting to look like some other country and not the United States. So, but the people that do this are very evil and heartless and sick. Or people like Diddy, like Latina says, a black YouTuber told me that thinks Diddy was only using the baby oil used to shine the booty up. Well, I'm sure that the word baby oil would just turn him on anyway because he's a creep. But I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I'm sure the baby oil is used for all kinds of depraved things. But so you got Holly weirdos, and there's a herd mentality with the Holly weirdos. So, and I'm going all over the place, but I'm reeling everything back in, all the lines back in. So when you have a herd mentality, they act like zombies, and they just do evil things. And in the movie, they show this woman that's having a problem because she's being surrounded by zombies. She gets in her vehicle and she tries to get a key, but there's no key. And then she puts the vehicle, which I'm not familiar. I was a kid in the early 2000s. I was born in 98. And the vehicles that were used are from the 90s. Maybe the 80s too, as well. So I remember those type of vehicles that were used in the film, because the film is from the 90s. It's not from the 80s, right? So it was from 1990. So I was in vehicles like the one in the movie when I was a little baby, a little kid. And also, basically, what happened was I was watching that, and there's this thing that she pulls, and it caused the vehicle to go backwards and crash into a tree. I don't really know what that thing was, the little pulley thing. I don't know what that is. I'm not familiar with it. It's been, it's like 20 years since I've been in a car like that, so I don't really know what that was for or why that was a thing. It just, she pulled something and she went backwards and crashed into a tree. Then anyway, she then goes to the house and she's in shell shock, and she's going and running into the house, and she sees some more zombies chilling, and some other zombie, like an NPC zombie, and then a zombie of the uncle. He's like a bald-looking clown thing, and he's blown up like an Oompa thing. And then she eventually smashes in the head. And then this really cool, dapper, black dude comes, and she's like, because he has a truck, and she's like watching him come in, and he's just like, talk to me, is this your home? Come on, let's go inside. And locking the door, but there's like 2 cockroach zombies walking around. And then they go and fight them. And she's just in shell shock. She forgot English, because she had to deal with a bunch of like Holly weirdo type people. So that's why I can understand the trauma like Justin Bieber and Drake Bell and those people face, because of, and Jeffrey Williams and all the other people that are, in these, like, dealing with these, like, zombies, how they get traumatized and they don't understand what's going on. And I can understand why this woman didn't understand, it was so traumatized, forgot to speak English. Then she started to come back to. And then he was telling the story about what happened and how these morons thought they could put them in the back of a truck, but it didn't really work too well. And then he was in a diner, and then this person, they were shooting one of them, and all these bullet holes going through it, and it wouldn't go down. And now there's a couple of zombie theories. Now I would like to continue to look into mythology and stuff about zombies and about why people, like where some of the mythology of it comes from. But I know in World War II there's instances allegedly of Nazi zombies. So you had people that were on meth and they may have been shot and stuff and they just kept on going because Hitler put the soldiers on a lot of drugs. He was on a lot of drugs himself, and which would explain the whole thing went downhill because when you have people that are not in their right mind, they do evil, crazy things because you open yourself up to demonic entities, and so basically, it just wouldn't go down, and like they're on like a lot of meth, but of course it's a supernatural. It's a dead body that's coming back to life, and they would shoot him in the head, and it would go down. So that is basically how you would defeat the zombies because it's like a hard drive or everything, the computer is inside the brain. And then there's nothing, left for it to work on, so it just goes down. And it's interesting to see lore about the movie or fan fictions about the movie or explanations about like a prequel to it would have been really cool. Like what was the reason for this? Was there a lab leak from China or something? Was there, something spiritual? Like, what caused the zombie outbreak to happen? And that is something that would have been interesting to be touched on. And so basically, the dude was very cool. And they got the dead body, the uncle, the guy that owned the house out. Did you find that out later, actually? What that person was, and it shows in the movie you don't see anything political, okay? And this was 1990, and it's like I wasn't even born yet when this movie came out. It was 8 years before I was born, and 7 years before, I was there, but I wasn't born yet. But I was technically around in 1997, but I wasn't born until 1998. So 7 to 8 years before my existence and birth. And I can't believe people older than me get so politicized in movies and TV shows and stuff because this movie was excellent and it had no political stuff in it. This movie had no political stuff in it. And also, what I remember seeing was you have, a man, defending himself and the people around him. And that's what you got to have in society. Because you can't have a soy boy protect you because it's not going to work. You can't have, like if a zombie apocalypse is going to happen, the lady and all the other people are going to have a problem. But that's the whole point. They want to destroy everybody when they use stuff like that. So, basically, you have this situation where she thinks she sees some other zombies coming from under the house. So, in this other room, you have some zombies. But it's actually humans. And she screams, and she sees these two dudes. And one of them's like this angry older guy with a suit on, with like a half suit on. And another guy that's a little bit shorter, and he has like a baseball cap on. And he's like really like cool, and he's like negotiating with them and talking to them, and they were related to the person in that house. But guess what? What happened was the uncle became a zombie, and one of the cousins deleted themselves because there's a part that I didn't mention where when she walks in the house in the beginning, she sees blood dripping from the top and a hand. But that was the cousin that deleted himself because he was sad to see his uncle in that state. He couldn't delete his uncle. The uncle became a zombie. And, so basically what happened was they talk and the emotions are very high. And they're just saying about they were in the cellar and they heard the woman freaking out, but they didn't know who it was and they were frightened. But the black guy was like, nah, y'all were frightened. Y'all were frightened. And then the guy with the hat admitted that because the other dude the older guy that was kind of like bald, he was really, really high strung. I think that dude could have been a pretty friendly, cool guy in a totally different situation. And he was trying to be good, but he was very high strung. And oh yeah, Latina, I'm all for it. I'm all for talking about politics of Night of the Living Dead. Absolutely. This is where we're. This is where we're at. But it's yut. Hui. So basically, what happened was the dude was very high strung and angry, and he was telling them all to go into the cellar. And then what happened was the the other dude, he was like, if we're all going to the cellar, they could all be cornered. So they have a better chance of going out there and boarding the place up, and they could get out if they wanted to. And that his vehicle did not have gas in it, and he was on fumes. And they didn't want to risk getting stuck out in the middle of nowhere with all those zombies. And the city, yes, yes. I remember you told me that last time, Latina, and it slipped my mind. Yeah, I know. You told me last time. I thank you for reminding me. Thank you, because I was about to look up the guy's name in the movie, which I need to do that right now. For some reason, I don't quite remember his. I know he's Tony Todd, but I want to look up what his character was, because the black guy is not what he was called in the movie. Ben. Okay. How could I forget? I'm being an alien airhead. That tinfoil hat must be too. That tinfoil hat must be too tight on me. Like Ben 10. How could I forget that? Okay, so anyway. So Ben, but his name is Tony in real life, which is the black guy in the movie. He was saying that they would be cornered in the basement from his opinion, his point of view. But the other guys said they have to go in the basement, and they start getting into a fight. And Ben is very high strung. And what I'm going to do right now is refresh my memory and look up all the characters, because I got to refresh my memory because I don't always pay attention to what the characters are called in a movie sometimes. I don't know why. But all right, so cast. I remember some of the characters' names, but I want to make sure I got this right. All right, Ben, Barbara. Yeah, I remember her. And then Harry, Helen, and Tom, Judy, Rose. Yes. All right. There we go. Yeah. You're welcome, Latina. Yeah. His name wasn't the black guy. What am I talking about? You see, I, I'm, I'm an alien. All right. I got really creative names for these Earthlings. So here we go. So basically, yeah, and then he was very So the dude, he was very angry at his wife Helen all the time. And basically, then you have the situation where they started fighting, and Ben is very high strung. And the dad was very, very angry, and they're both high strung, and they both start fighting. Now, so this one group, Ben wants to go and fight the zombies, and so he and everybody else in the house, and they all go and nail. They take like pieces of. They take the doors, and they go nail the wall. Not the walls, silly goose, but the windows, so they don't come in, or at least barricade it so it'd be more difficult for them to come in. So then what happens next is they go and get nails, and they just hammer and hammer, and then they start coming, and they walk so slow, and Ben is just like, they can't take a chance. But she was like the original character in the story, kind of like the main character. She was like, you could walk right past them, and then you could just go and delete them right there. And the main objective was to get gas out of the gas air. Did this man, the uncle, had himself a whole gas station. And then what happened was, when you have the whole gas station, you basically have this problem where they don't have the key to open it up. And they're looking for a key, but Ben says he's going to look for the key, but he never does that. He just goes and boards up a bunch of windows. And there's an expression that says, if you go everywhere, send your forces everywhere, everywhere you'll be weak. And it's good they have a place to run. But the problem is there's all these windows that are open, and the dad had a point. And his name is not the dad, by the way. That's a spoiler for everybody. That's not his name. Basically, what he was doing was he was trying to go into the cellar, and then the zombies were trying to come through the window, and then dude was asking, he said, hey, give me the nails. Give me the nails. And dude was in shell shock. He shot himself 50 times in a millisecond, okay? 50 times. And then he eventually gave him the nails. So there's a daughter, and she's stuck in the basement, and because one of those things bit her, and it doesn't really dawn on them. It doesn't dawn on them that she would probably turn into a zombie at some point, or at least Ben didn't say anything. And Latina says it's from the farm equipment tractors and shit. And shit. Shit. Yeah, so basically this man has himself a whole gas station, but it's for the farm equipment and tractors and shit. And then what happens is, when you have the gas station, you have this situation where, they don't have the key. And then the zombies are coming through the window, and then eventually they come up with a plan, and more of them start coming, and they go into the basement at some point, and then Ben gets really angry, and he takes his gun out at various times in the film and points it at his nemesis. And then he starts getting really angry, and they go and start fighting, especially over the TV set. They go and drop it down into the basement, and it just clinkers and clinkers, and then it's all, drama from there. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the characters, because they're very interesting. The names that come up with these people, it's called the Hansel method. All right. Nope. Nope, hold on. There we go. That's what I want to see. And they got names for these things. Okay, here we go. Alright, that's what I wanted to see. There we go. Happy November, Eugene. Welcome, buddy. Yeah, these are the characters, some of them now. Some of them probably passed away, I guess. But, you know. Yeah, so you had Barbara. There's Harry. And there's Helen. And Tom. Yeah, and these people all just didn't really get along too well. Not completely well. Yeah. I remember this dude in the movie. I remember this man. He passed away. Rest in peace. Harry passed away in the movie. Dude was funny. As I said, Harry seems like kind of like a guy that was funny or a kind of cool guy you could have gotten along with, but he was very high strung, and Ben's very high strung, and they just didn't get they didn't get along well together, and then they just had this problem where they just had this zombie apocalypse happening, and it really is a horrible situation to be in, very horrid indeed. And then what these people do is they go and get in fights the entire time. So yeah, shout out to Tom Towles, very great actor. 2015. He died at 65. Sherry Moon is a zombie. Yeah, this is one of the zombies still alive. Okay. Getting to some more of them. And Tom. Yeah, he's still around. He was pretty cool. And I saw this whole thing. No kidding. And there's that's Helen. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to them. So basically, what happens is they never look for the key, and that's a big problem. And then they're all trying to go and get the daughter help, and she doesn't really interact in the movie with anything. You know, she's just there. And then you have this other situation that occurs through a series of battles back and forth, and then there's a one point they're going to try to make it to the gas station, that the Uncle gas station for the tractors and shit. So then they get this. They thought they found the key because they thought it was on the Uncle. And then what they did was Bro took a torch, a whole torch, and then he started waving it at them and setting he set one on fire. Dude was like touching him a little bit, and he set bro on fire. And then what happened was Karen was saying she knows how to drive, and Tom went into the back seat. Then they went out to the other area where it was at. You know, then they go there and realize the keys were not the keys they thought they were. As I said, it was a failure of Ben, as very intelligent and cool that he was. Okay, I want to say the situation he was in was something that has never, I mean, that it's happened, horrible things are happening all the time. And this is science fiction, but that's a really horrible situation he was in. So I can understand he was not maybe thinking completely straight, but he failed to get the right keys. You know, you could see the psychological war, how it worked. You know, even in this situation, how he failed. He went all over the place, everywhere, and he was weak everywhere he went in a certain sense. Well, what I mean by that is he was a great fighter, and he was very good at getting rid of the zombies. But the problem was the group was going all over the place rather than concentrated in one spot. But they did have a good concept of boarding it up and hunkering down and fighting, because you know there's a point where, like the Alamo, where it's, you know, the Last Stand or Custer's Last Stand, you know, all these different things where people, you know, this is it, you got to go. So basically, there's a lot of lessons to learn in the film and art of war tactics in there, certainly, because a lot of mistakes that were made, but a lot of things that were done right, especially in the beginning. So yeah, if they would have all toned it down and try to remain calmer, I think it would have been, you know, a little bit better for them. So basically, you know, we got this dude over here, and there's a point where they turn on a TV a little bit before that, and they try to see if there's a signal about anything. And all they get in their signal is, you know, there's a televised warning about what's going on. There's like a warning, kind of like a tornado warning or a hurricane warning. There's like a distress emergency warning on TV. And there's a TV station a couple miles out that was broadcasting it. So there's still people. They couldn't go into the town they want to go into because it's a war zone out there. Alien spaceship. Ben wanted to fight. He said they were slow. Okay, so Barbara, she was on the porch, and she was basically saying that they were slow. And I'm not talking about the zombies. I'm talking about the group fighting each other. I'm not talking about the zombies. Them as a group, as a militia, they didn't get along too well, and it just kind of all fell apart, and they kind of spread themselves all over the place. But it's a situation that would happen in, you know, probably in real life. Happy Turkey Month. Yeah. Ben wanted to fight. He said they were slow. Right, so, and Barbara, she was on the porch, and she saw they were slow. And she thought she could just go out and right past them. You know, she was the one that wanted to go past them. And Tom was chicken shit. So yeah, she's the one. Barbara was the one that wanted to go out and fight them. She wanted to go right out there. Yeah, she wanted to go out there. But Ben was actually the one that said, "Woman, you're crazy. You have to stay here right now. Because you go out there, you might get taken over by them. We all got to stay here, inside here. And then we could board it up. If we have to go, we could go. We'll be cornered down there in the cellar, in the basement. See, so that was his logic, and that was his tactics. Eugene, Night of the Living Dead is public domain because of copyright issues. And I have the right here. I have it right in front of my face. I'll read it to you everything. I'll read you the whole thing. It's just a paragraph. Like the original film, follows 7 strangers as they meet and survive in a rural farmhouse following the awakening of a cannibalistic zombies. It is only the official remake from 1968 film, with unofficial remakes coming out after as a result of the source material's lack of copyright ownership and public domain. So the 1968 film was public domain. And there's remakes of it because it's public domain, okay? Because the original one, I'm talking the original one from 1968, yes. You do, and that's very cool you do that, Eugene. Yeah, shout out to you. And so then Harry is fighting over the TV, and it just drops down and they cause problems. And something that I gotta make clear here is that Harry and Helen are really funny, and they start fighting. And he says, "Helen, we're staying down here, Helen." He's like Fred Flintstone, dude. And he smacks her too. I mean, the dude gets really tense and angry. He seems like a cool kind of funny guy that's high strung. He gets all angry and grrr. And he said, "We're staying down here, Helen." And also what happened was, so he's being kind of abusive towards his wife, and then Ben is like, you and I didn't really like each other. And I didn't like you the first time I saw you, but we gotta get this thing done. And they start beefing right when they see each other. Yeah, Latina, there's a lot of sick people in this world. Right. Exactly. Yeah, so basically what happened was with the Night of the Living Dead, you know, Ben and Harry start fighting. And Harry's the kind of dude that doesn't like all caps. That's a joke right there on me. But I don't mind all caps. It's okay. It's okay. But I had to throw that joke. I had to go take a shot at myself. And I can imagine he's like, "Helen, they're writing all caps." And also, basically, Eugene says my zombie idea was like zombie cowboys. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a cool idea. Yeah, so basically, you have a chicken shit Tom. He means well. He's like a cool dude, but he's like, kind of like a like doy, or he's like a chicken. So then they go all the way with Karen to the farmhouse, and they accidentally leave Ben behind because she drives off her name fits with the definition she is. She drives like a Karen, and she drives off like a Karen. Latina says Dead was mistakenly released into the public domain because the original distributor failed to replace the copyright notice when changing the film's name. That's true. I read that last time. Latina, you could write in all Latina, you could write in all caps. It's okay. It's okay. I write in all caps too on Law and Crimes channel, and I understand why you're doing it. It's all good. It doesn't bother me. And also, basically, what happened was I went and was watching it, and they left Ben behind the dust, and Karen's going, "Wow, we left him behind. We left him behind. Come on, let's go!" Woo, woo, woo. And she's getting all like she's on. She drank some. Back then, it would have been a bunch of Cokes, a bunch of Coca-Colas, or some goofy thing like that, or a bunch of root beers. But we would call this now a bunch of Red Bulls, a Red Bull or a Monster drink, because she was all cranked up. And he hops in the back, and he stands up because he thinks he's like really smart, but he kind of goes sideways a little bit, and then he goes under. He goes down. Yeah. Yeah, it's all good, Latina. Yeah, so basically he goes and they go to the gas station pump. And you got these zombies that are walking like an 80-year-old man. And they just kind of go, ah. You just shoot them in the head. It's quite easy. And Latina said a silly editing error in their editing process put the cult zombie film into public domain, and copyright free means free, no revenue. Facts. Unfortunately. Yeah, so then you got this other situation. This other situation. A zombie was going through the window, and there is this dude that they knew. We'll just call him NPC Mike. And NPC Mike got shot. And Karen and Harry and Tom were like, comfort. Not Tom, really. He kind of knew what was going on. But they were like, you went and shot him. Oh my god, you went and shot him. Hatred. And also, so basically what happened was you have a situation where they go and she shoots the zombie 5 times. She says, huh? He doesn't die. Then she shoots him in the head to show all the idiots in the room that the zombie is not their friend they used to have. Bingo. Well, that's good they got their rights, Eugene. That's really cringe. Thanks for sharing. I didn't know that about Superman. All right. So, yeah, so basically in the film, Barbara and Harry stay behind, and she's just in like worse and worse condition, the daughter, and Harry's just kind of in the basement back, and he comes out, and he wants the gun, and he wrestles Barbara for the gun, and then what happens next is he overpowers her and takes it, and he keeps shooting like a wild man, and he runs out of bullets, but he doesn't do anything because he didn't realize when you shoot a zombie, you have to shoot it in the head, but you just waste all your bullets because he wasn't really thinking logically. And as I said, Harry could have been a pretty cool dude, and I think if a dude was more calm, like if he was dealing with a calm, cool person, like Ben was also high strung too. I think Harry could have been a little bit more. You could have reasoned with Harry if you dealt with him the right way. And then what happens next is Ben, eventually comes back, and this genius Tom, this chicken shit genius Tom, he can't unlock it. And basically what happens is, listen here. He puts the keys in the gas pump and it's the wrong keys. And this man is like an Einstein. He takes his gun out and he shoots the gas pump and blows himself and Karen up. Genius. Genius, right? And he goes. And they're. You're drinking natural ice, nice. So basically, what happened was it exploded, and Barbara's face just turns ice cold and white, and her eyes pop out of her head. She's like, what the fuck?" Like that's what she's like. And then she. That's when they start wrestling, and then Ben comes back in. He's like, "Harry, open up, open up." But Harry's like Harry's too busy, you know, being an idiot. So he gets in, and then the zombies tamper with the wiring and cause the power to go out. But as I said, you don't shoot a gas pump with a gun. For those in the back of the room, you don't shoot a gas pump lock with a gun. It just might explode. All right? Understood? Okay. Anyway, so basically what happened is you have the situation where the power goes out, it's a little more spooky. And as I said, Helen does briefly talk to Barbara and Ben at different points, but she's more of an NPC. And then this daughter comes back out of nowhere, like, hey, she took some of the Red Bull, and she was like, and she went, and the mother was like, "Oh no, baby girl," and then she gets bit in the neck, and and then she becomes a zombie. So what happened next was the daughter comes out as a zombie, and she's heading right towards the father, and Ben said, "Shoot it." Ben said, "Shoot it." It reminds me of this other movie that I like watching at a sleepover with my friends' house. Very similar time to this. I'd say 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, you even say this night, especially in the summer, around this time, I would have been watching this other movie called Inception. And a spoiler alert for everybody. Okay? Spoiler alert. This whole thing's a spoiler alert, but okay? Okay? Alright. Everybody's been warned. There's a scene where Cobb is about to shoot one of the NPC enemies in Fisher's dream. And basically, she went, and his wife, Cobb's wife, drops down just like out of nowhere from the ceiling. And in Inception, he has these memories of his wife because Inception was done to her, and she didn't know if it was if it was real or not. So she lost touch with this world and the dream world, because you would have to delete yourself to get out of the dream. So she didn't know if she was dreaming or not because of the totem. and she deleted herself, shoot in the movie, and so that haunted him, and that's why he couldn't be an architect of the dream, because Arthur had to do it, because he would just bring her back, and that's exactly what he did. He brought her in the movie, you know, and with me, it's like, as a joke. I mean, I would have a lot of different ladies, and if it was if I was Cobb in the dream, how there would be a lot of different ladies popping up all over the place, because I know a lot of them on YouTube. So basically, so the point of what I'm saying here is, she drops down and he has to delete his wife, and he can't. He freezes and he can't do it. And she's telling him, next to him, Ariana's saying next to him to shoot the wife, and he just froze, and she got the Fisher. And so basically, in this zombie movie from the 90s, Night of the Living Dead, he couldn't, the father understandably couldn't do that to his daughter, like Cobb in Inception. And Ben had it, Ben was about to do it, and then the genius Harry goes and shoots Ben a couple of times, and they shoot fire back and forth. And then, and then she's eventually shot in the head, the daughter. And Barbara gets a revolver, and she just goes with her original plan, and she just walks outside, and Ben's injured, and he's saying to go, and the zombie hordes are tearing up the place and twerking and all kinds of stuff, and he goes into the basement. You know what he finds? He finds the keys to the gas pump on the wall while he sits in his chair and smokes a cigarette. And he starts laughing hysterically. Takes the cigarette out of his mouth and starts laughing. If they would have all went into the basement, they would have found the keys to the gas pump. They wouldn't have been on the top with all the zombies swarming the place. And there's a board on the door, so it would have been very difficult for them to get through. And they had some guns, so they would have held off for a little while. Or they could have made their way back up and went to the gas pump. They could have saved. Well, the daughter would have been a problem, because they would have went into the basement. You would have had to do with the daughter, and then there would have still been the same problem. There probably would have been some bloodshed. And unless if you had a guy who was real charming with Harry and got him to chill out and get on his good side, but they could have went, and it could have been a totally different movie. But hey, they just were all fighting each other. And basically, then she's out there, and she sees the dead bodies of Karen and a bunch of other people, and the zombies are eating them, and she's just grossed out. And these zombies, they flash these scenes of these zombies eating fingers, eating even a mouse, eating everything. The arms, the legs, the stomach, everything. Brains. So that's where that comes from. That about zombies eating brains and eating people. It came from this movie. When I was a kid watching Timmy Turner and SpongeBob, they talk about zombies and stuff like this. And basically, what happened was, in the movie, it reflects things that are still being used today. Latina said some things. I think I may have seen it in the store, if I'm not mistaken. It's a bit horrible than chorus. I only know guess because lady used to work for Olby, buys cores, and I would ask why. Just by natural ice, it was a little bit cheaper. Eugene, a beer that is very good? A Beta beer, which is from down where I come from. A Beta beer, which I'm still talking about the movie, but we're going to kind of get on a side chat here. So a Beta it tastes like fresh, sparkling water and alcohol flavors at the same time. It's delicious. And also, there's this beer called not politically correct in this day and age, or that has nothing to do with anything. There's something called Dixie beer, but it's in this day and age, it just people think it's not politically correct. So, you know, but yeah, still with Dixie beer because the South was called Dixie in Dixieland, so they named it after that, but I don't think it has anything to do with anything. But yeah, that's a good one too. I'm trying to think, but yeah, I know about Coors, and I've not tried the one you're referring to about ice. I've heard of it, but I've not tried it myself. Latina says, I think Resident Evil more modern, high tech, and Night of the Living Dead seems more like an old 80s film, slow, undead walk. I have not seen Resident Evil. I've heard of it a million times, but I've never seen it. Thank you, Eugene. I'm glad that you're fine with the name. Facts. A shout out to you. It's just people these days are a little bit touchy. Yeah, but thanks. Thanks. Yeah, shout out to Virginia. Alright, so basically, I've not seen Resident Evil, but I will see it at some point. And yeah, but the 80s film is more of a slow walk. And you know what it reminds me? It reminds me of Michael Jackson's Thriller. That's what the Night of the Living Dead, those zombies are like that. But Thriller was an amazing, amazing one, okay? I love Thriller. That was a great song. I had like a doy moment. I'm like, he would have been a great YouTuber. But you know what? They didn't have YouTube back then. And he was on YouTube, and he is on YouTube. Although he's not around, he's not live anymore. But rest in peace. But still, like his films and stuff, it's like that's stuff that would have been like on YouTube, but they didn't have YouTube back then. I don't even think they really had. They had computers, but they're real primitive. They weren't like the ones we have now. More in the vampires than zombies. Yeah, shout out to the vampires. And zombies is something I've not really dabbled into too much, but one of my Halloween costumes looked just like one of the Night of the Living Dead zombies, like the one that kills the brother in the beginning. I had a costume just like that, and I had the mask too. One time I was a ghoul, and I was like a ghost with chains and stuff. It was pretty cool. Right now I'm a pumpkin. Yeah, MTV was YouTube. Yes. Yeah, so basically what happened was as the movie's going on, she sees the dead and she freaks out, and then she sees some country folk shooting at her direction, and she screams. She says, "No, don't shoot! Don't shoot!" And this dude comes from behind her and grabs her, but it's actually just one of the country guys, and they go and like rescue her. And if they all would have just stayed in the basement and held out, the help would have came that night, and they would have been okay. You know. Anyway, So eventually, she wakes up to this camp, which is they set camp right then in that area, and they take the zombies and they were using them as target practice. They were putting them in like a cage and watching them fight each other. And she said, they are us and we are them. And there's like a thing here. It was like a moral lesson here about a bunch of things, a bunch of different meanings to what she said, but also a moral thing that, look what, they do to their fellow humans. And it mirrors what the communists and different people do. And, or any of the dictatorships also. What the, fascist or, different groups did and dehumanizing other humans. So that was an interesting thing. And that another factor she's saying is that those zombies were human like us. And that's what something we could turn into. So, very deep. And the country dude didn't really understand what she meant, and she said nothing. She's just having fun. There is food, there is partying, there is people chilling. And they go back into the house to look what's going on. And so what happens is they go into the house to see what's going on. And they see Ben as a zombie. And he looks at Barbara and just doesn't do anything. Like a part of him knew what was going on, and he wasn't going to try to do anything. But he was a zombie, because they eventually got to him, the zombies, because he was in the basement, no guns or anything, and he was just laughing. And then they went and shot him. So what happens next is Harry comes out, and he's fine. He's not a zombie, and you're probably wondering why. You're probably wondering why he is a zombie. He's not a zombie. And during the gunfight, Harry survived and hid in the attic. So he came down and he looked very relieved and happy to see Barbara. And he said, "You came back. You came back." And as I said, under the right circumstances, if the right person were to have reasoned with Harry, he wouldn't have escalated that far. But then she shot him and said, "Another one for the burn pile." Because the reason why she did that is because Harry killed Ben. And that's why, she did that. And they put them in the burn pile. And they're all just kind of like hanging out and eating food and stuff. It's like a post-apocalyptic society. And then the credits start rolling. So that's the movie. That's the whole movie summarized by me. And I saw it, and I'm glad Latina told me about it. Eugene says, "I was a zombie for work in high school, but it wasn't based on anything." Okay. The Stand was fresh in my mind back then. Alright. Latina said The Stand by Stephen King movie, which I've never heard of it. Not Bina, she's not here right now. Latina said The Stand, also known as Stephen King. The Stand is a 1994 American post-apocalyptic television miniseries based on the 1978 novel of the same name by Stephen King. King also wrote the teleplay and has a minor role in the series. Oh yeah, well that's really cool. He's in his own thing. I've heard of him being in his own movies and series. Shout out to him. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that was him. That was Chicken Sheet. Yeah, and that's the that's him in a cowboy movie. That was Karen. Yeah, she was the one that was tripping out. Yeah, that movie was so 80s, definitely. All right, The Stand. Let's see. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to read about this. All right. The Stand, 1994, American post apocalyptic television miniseries. Based on the 1978 novel of the same name by Stephen King. King also wrote the teleplay and has a minor role in the series. It was directed by Mick Garris, who previously directed the original screenplay film Sleepwalkers in 1992. The Stand includes a cast of more than 125 speaking roles and features Gary Sinise, Miguel, or a bunch of different actors. The miniseries was shot in several locations and 225 sets. Each episode was given a 6 million budget, so to reduce cost of the miniseries was shot on 16 millimeter film. The Stand originally aired on ABC from May 8 to May 12, 1994. Reviews were positive, and the miniseries were nominated for 6 Primetime Emmy Award winning 2 of the makeup and sound mixing. And this is the plot. On June 13, at the top secret government laboratory In Northern California, a weaponized version of influenza called Project Blue is accidentally released. A U.S. Army soldier, Charlie Champion, escapes the lab and flees across the country with his wife and daughter, unintentionally spreading the virus. On June 17, Campion crashes his car into a gas station in Aronet, Texas, where Stu Redman and some friends are gathered. With his wife and child already dead from the superflu, Campion warns Redman that he had been pursued by a dark man before he succumbs to the virus as well. The next day, the U.S. military arrives to quarantine the town on orders from General Starkey, commander of Project Blue. Yes, thank you, Latina. Do that. Thank you. The townspeople are taken to CDC facility in Stovington, Vermont. All but STU succumb to the superflu called Captain Trips by the populace, which kills 99.4% of the world's population. In 2 weeks, the scattered survivors include would-be rock star Larry Underwood, deaf mute Nick Andros, Franny Goldsmith, and her unborn child, her teenage neighbor Harold Lauder, imprisoned criminal Lloyd Henreid, and Trash Can Man, a mentally ill arsonist and scavenger. The survivors begin having visions either either from kindly Mother Abigail or from the demonic dark man Randall. Flag dreams the council the survivors to either travel to Nebraska to meet Abigail or to Las Vegas to join Flag. Read a little bit of this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Halloween specifically, okay? One more paragraph of this, and I'm going to talk about. I'm talking in such a monotone voice for some reason. But alright, so I'm going to read a paragraph of this, and then I'm going to tell you more about Halloween specifically. Lloyd is freed from prison by Flag in exchange for becoming his second in command. Trash Can Man destroys fuel tanks across the Midwest and is directed to Las Vegas by Flag. Larry escapes New York City with a mysterious Virginian woman named Nadine Cross. Despite their mutual attraction, Nadine is unable to consummate a relationship with Larry because of her visions of Flag, who commands her to join him. She leaves Larry to travel on her own. Larry then meets school teacher named Lucy Swan and a traumatized boy she calls Joe outside Des Moines, Iowa, which has burned to the ground after escaping to the CDC facility. STU gathers a group of survivors, including Franny, Harold, and a former college professor, Glenn Bateman. They are joined by various other immune survivors. Yeah, that sounds like a really cool movie. Really cool. We'll talk more about it. But one thing I want to do here is we'll look up this type of beer he talks about. I'm just curious about it. Superman. Where is it? Public domain. We've been chatting. Why two? Ice. Okay, he's about beer. Natural ice. Okay. All right. All right. So that's natural ice. So shout out to natural ice. Looks pretty cool. Yes. Yes. All right. I've not tried it yet. I certainly will. Looks interesting. All right. All right. This is a beta. This is a beta beer. Their purple haze is a flavor. They have all kinds of different flavors, and they have alligator. It tastes like fresh, sparkling water and beer. It tastes so good. It tastes so good. All right, alligator. The alligator, Andy Gator. Yes, they all have very good flavors. Yeah, purple haze. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I've had it before. William Rose, the sixth Baron, November 1st, 1414, was an English nobleman, politician, and soldier. He inherited his father's feudal barony, extensive estate centered in Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire. Okay, you hear Lincolnshire? That's where Abraham Lincoln's, the name Lincoln, that's where it originates from. Lincolnshire in 1394. Shortly afterwards, he married Margaret, daughter of Baron Fitzlan, whose family, likely of the De Ros, were well connected and implicably obsessed with King Richard II. In 1399, Richard confiscated the estates of his cousins Henry Bolingbroke. This man's name is Bolingbroke. Bolingbroke, rather. Not boiling broke, but bowling broke. It's kind of a funny name. Duke of Lancaster exiled him. When Henry invaded England several months later, D. Ross took his side almost immediately after Henry declared himself King Henry. De Ross voted in the House of Lords in the former king's imprisonment. Henry the Fourth. I didn't see the Roman numerals. Okay. He became an important aide and counselor to King Henry and regularly spoke for him in Parliament. He also supported Henry in his military campaigns. Participating in the invasion of Scotland in 1400 and assisting the supervision of Richard Lee Scorp rebellion 5 years later. I have never watched The Stand as an adult. It's kind of a creepy spooky. I have never watched The Stand as an adult. It is kind of a creepy spooky movie. Okay, thanks for letting us know. In the Japanese general election, LDP-led ruling coalition loses its majority in House of Representatives. Okay. Let's see. When I read about these noblemen and stuff from these like the 1400s and stuff, I have a family tree in England, and from my dad's side, which is a part of my family out of the ancestors I have. It's a part of it has a family tree, and that reminded me of looking at my family tree. This thing because there's all these different people and these different shires, the different shires and stuff. It's yeah. So this what reminded me of that. They were in England, somewhere in England and Scotland, and then later somewhere from Ireland. It was just like a interesting mix of people. A shout out to the castles and them. Okay, now we'll talk about Halloween. One thing I'm going to dive right into and surprise everybody about is something else. All right, this is about Michael Myers, and I didn't cover this for some reason, but all right, so this is the Curse of Thorn, and it's this. I don't really see information about something. Okay, I'm gonna just say what I know. Okay, so here we go. So basically, the Curse of Thorn goes back to the ancient Celtic people in Ireland, Scotland, the Celtic lands. I'd say so, like the time of Merlin, the alleged Merlin and King Arthur and stuff like that. So in this fictional story, there's this curse called the Curse of Thorn, and the one of the people in the family has to delete the entire family to save the tribe during Halloween. So I recall this, and this may not be canonical, but this is something I thought I recalled. There's this constellation and that rune symbol. So that symbol you see is like a Nordic symbol, and and like a Celtic symbol, and it's used. And under this constellation, these rituals and stuff take place, and the demon goes into the person, and that's how the Curse of Thorn works, and it went all the way back to the ancient Celtic people through this bloodline. And then in modern times, the 70s, Michael Myers was part of this bloodline, so he was the one chosen to do it, and he was kind of like a zombie. So that's just like a fun fact. I learned that in 2016, by the way. All right, so yeah, that's the tattoo. And this is another one. That's like a modern version, of course. It's not the ancient Celtic ones, but that is like a little ritual they were doing, and it has to do with the Curse of Thorn, and like the kind of like Holly weirdos and the occultic stuff. You know, that's that right there. All right. Eugene says it was like COVID worst case scenario, plus the creepy religious stuff. Latina says Miss Swan. Oh, he look like a man. I think that is from Mad TV show. All right, let's dive right into Halloween. Halloween is a celebration observed in many countries on October 31, the eve of the Western Christian feast of All Hallows Day. It is at the beginning of the observation of All Hallows Tide, the time where liturgical dedicated to remembering the dead, including Saint Hallows martyrs and all the faithful departed. In popular culture, the day has been a celebration of horror being associated with the macabre and supernatural. One of one theory holds that many Halloween traditions were influenced by Celtic harvest festivals, particularly the Gaelic festival of Samhain, which are believed to have pagan roots. Some go further and suggest that Samhain may have been Christianized as All Hallows Day, along with its eve. By early church, other academics believe Halloween began solely as a Christian holiday beginning the vigil of All Hallows Day, celebrated in Ireland and Scotland for centuries. Irish and Scottish immigrants took many Halloween customs to North America in the 19th century, and then through American influence, various Halloween customs spread to other countries by the late 20th and early 21st century. Popular activities during Halloween include trick-or-treating or the related guises and souling, attending Halloween custom parties, carving pumpkins or turnips into jack-o'-lanterns, lighting bonfires, apple bobbing, divination games, playing pranks, visiting haunted attractions, and telling frightening stories and watching horror or Halloween themed films. Some people practice the Christian observances of All Hallows Eve, including attending church service and lighting candles on the graves of the dead. Although it is secular celebration for other, some Christians historically abstained from meat on All Hallows Eve, a tradition reflected in eating of certain vegetarian foods on this vigil day, including apples, potato, pancakes, and soul cakes. Latina says Miss Swan. Oh, he look. Oh, I read that already. Latina says I think Stephen King based his stories on bad things he did in secret. He looks like a spooky creep too. Bad weirdo vibes. Never liked him since I was a child. Now he does write very good stories, but that was hilarious. And he certainly is not on our. He's not on the train. He's not on the train, Latina. He's on a different train than we are. Yeah. Your church did Harvest Festival, not Halloween. Huh? Either one's okay. It all okay with Halloween. It matters, the intentions. So that's fine. They did that, but I don't think it's bad for to celebrate Halloween because what they did was they took the pagan traditions and used it for a Christian cause. And nothing wrong with studying about supernatural and paranormal messed up stuff because you need to know about the forces of darkness and how they work. So as I said, it's all about your intentions. And nobody's perfect. We all missed a mark, but that was a crazy rant. But yeah, that's really cool that your church did that. Shout out to your church. The word Halloween or Halloween Saints Evening is of Christian origin, a term equivalent to All Hallows Eve, as attested in Old English. The word Halloween comes from the Scottish form of a All Hallows Eve, the evening before All Hallows Day. Even the Scots term for eve or evening and contracted to een or een, All Hallows Eve became Halloween. That was the weirdest thing I ever read. All right. That makes sense, Eugene. I don't think they didn't want the kids to dress up and go out. Yeah, because there's a lot of okay. So there's creepy stories like about evil people putting stuff in candy, like pins and poison and stuff and apples. There's stories of like people trying to kidnap children. I believe that Halloween's the time where children are kidnapped the most, if I recall correctly. So yeah, I didn't do trick or treating. My mom was always with me. We just went to certain events where they're giving out candy, or to neighbors or people we knew. Right. So yeah, that makes sense to me, Eugene. Christian origins and historic customs. Halloween is thought to have influences from Christian beliefs and practices. The English word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, being evening before the Christian holy day of All Hallows Day. On November 1, All Souls Day on the 2nd November. Since the time of the early church, major feasts in Christianity, such as Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost, had vigils that began the night before, as did the Feast of All Hallows. These 3 days are collectively called All Hallowtide and are a time when Western Christians honor all saints and pray for recently departed souls who have yet to reach heaven. Commemorations of all saints and martyrs were held by several churches on various dates, mostly in springtime in the 4th century Roman Edessa. It was held on 13 May 609. Pope Boniface. Wow. Pope Boniface the Fourth rededicated dedicated to Pantheon in Rome to Saint Mary and all martyrs. This was the date of Le Muriae, an ancient Roman festival of the dead. Eugene says, we went to the mall. I went to the mall too. There's a picture of me when I was with the Great Pumpkin. Okay. I don't know if I could. I'm going to briefly look to see if I could find the picture. I'll be right back. I'm not going to be long. I'm just going to be a second. I don't even know if I could. It's there, but I'm going to have to look for it more closely. Alrighty. Going to do this for a second. This is when I went to the mall when I was a kid and I took a picture with the pumpkin. Y'all may not be able to see this too well before I show this to you, so I'll certainly put it on the computer at some point so y'all can see it better. Alright, but here we go. We'll try it. See, look. There I am. With my curly hair, my nice curly hair and all, and that's me in the SpongeBob, not the SpongeBob, but the Spider-Man costume, and that's the Great Pumpkin. That was me at the mall. Yeah, that was fun. Alright. So, and I found that just right there, and we'll be resuming our normal, what we usually talk about in a moment. Eugene says, "Oh, my story I was writing, I wanted a Halloween type holiday in the spring, and that May date came up in my research." That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing. That's very cool. Story, oh, my story I was writing, I wanted a Halloween type holiday in the spring, and that May date came in my research. Yeah, it's really cool. I like that. Very creative. Halloween is thought to have influences from Christian beliefs and practices. The English word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, being the evening before Christian holidays of All Hallows Day. On November 1, and All Souls Day on the 2nd of November, since the time of the early church, a day on 2 November, since the time of the early church, major feasts in Christianity, such as Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost, had vigils that began the night before, as did the Feast of All Hallows. These 3 days are collectively called All Hallowtide and are the time when Western Christians honor all saints and pray for recently departed souls who have yet to reach heaven. Commemorations of all saints and martyrs were held by several churches on various dates, mostly in springtime. In the 4th century Roman Edessia, it was held on 13 May, and on 13 May 609, Pope Boniface IV rededicated to the Pantheon, and I read that already. So go on to this next part. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III, 731 to 741, founded an oratory in St. Peter's for the relics of the holy apostles and all saints, martyrs, and confessors. Some sources say it was dedicated on 1 November, while others say it was on Palm Sunday. In April 732, by 800, there is evidence that churches in Ireland, Northumbria. By the way, I'm related to the part of England I'm related to is Northumbria, so we're gonna kind of do one moment, like a one moment thing here, right here. Here we go. All right, this is Northumbria. And it's where northern England and southern Scotland meet. And that is an area where a lot of the people that, like, where country people also come from this part too, from England. Like, what I mean by that is which not necessarily country people, but people that, which is not only country people, but the settlers of the Americas. So you have, people in Boston and those areas, and people in Georgia. So the country people and the people from New York and stuff that were related to the original settlers originated from that area of England. Then they went over to North Ireland for a little while. Then they went over to the United States, the colonies, because it was a company, because they were trying to make money and stuff from over there. So they sent out people to do, stuff for the empire. And as you all know, we all know how it turns out eventually. How, it turns out differently. But so, yeah, Northumbria is where a lot of people from, like, British descent come from. Now, I say British descent because it's not only English descent, right? But there's the Scottish people too that are Celtic. So it's not just, so British is like a broad umbrella. That means like the different islands mixed together. That's why I say, like, I have British ancestry. I don't say I have English ancestry because I'm related to Scotland and Ireland and Wales and stuff. I can't just, alienate one little part of the ancestry. But yeah, so anyway, I'm related to people from Northumbria that migrated to London later. Then they went over to East Anglia when in recent times, London became really bad, so they went to some other area in East Anglia. My relatives are still over there. I was born in the United States. Thankfully, I was born here. The first generation from my dad's side to be born in the United States. Anyway, so in Northumbria, we're holding a feast commemorating saints on 1 November. Al-Culian of Northumbria, a member of the clergyman's court, may then have introduced this 1 November date in the Frankish Empire. In 835, it became the official date in the Frankish Empire. Some suggest this was due to Celtic influence, while others suggest it was a Germanic idea. Although it is claimed that both Germanic and Celtic-speaking peoples commemorated the dead. Pope Boniface is a lawyer. I like that. Am I in line for the crown? Well, am I in line for the crown? Well, I would be very, 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 very far removed from that list. I'll look it up, Latina. All right. Yeah, Eugene. I'll be very far from that list. Like, I would be down the line somewhere in there. Yes, technically yes, but it would be like very far down the line from a line that was probably from some affair. This is actually something as actually like this is serious. Like from, like, say you had some one of them, way in the past, had some affair with somebody because they had a bunch of lovers, and somebody from this illegitimate line was related to me somehow, and I'm a descendant of somebody from a long time ago. So technically, yes, but it would be very, very far down the line. But then again, it's not a legitimate line. So that's actually to literally answer your question. Answering it literally, but to answer the joke you said about am I in line for the crown? Well, yeah, I'm related to a lot of different groups in England, different like families and stuff over there. So you never know. I could be. So that's the joke part. But then I actually answered it literally too. So I gave you two different answers. All right, we're gonna look it up right now. Okay, thanks, Latina. Gracias. Okay, he was a lawyer. Thanks. In Northumbria, we're holding a feast commemorating saints on 1 November. Acluion, a Northumbria member of Chamberlain's court. All right, they may have seen the most fitting time to do so. As a time of the dying nature, it is also suggested the change was made on the practical grounds that Rome in summer could not accommodate the great number of pilgrims who flocked to it, and perhaps of public health concerns over Roman fever, which claims a number of lives during Rome's sluttery summers. Sluttery summers. I'm going to use that one. By the end of the 12th century, the celebration had become known as the Holy Days of Obligation in Western Christianity, and involved in such traditions as ringing bells for souls in purgatory. It was also customary for criers dressed in black parade in streets ringing a bell of mournful sound and calling on all good Christians to remember the poor souls. All Hallowtide costume of baking and sharing soul cakes for all Christian souls has been suggested as the origin of the trick or treating. The custom dates back to at least the 15th century and was found in parts of England, Wales, Flanders, Bavaria, and Austria in outer space. And I'm joking about the last part. Groups of poor people, often children, would go door to door during a All Hallow Tide, collecting soul cakes in exchange for praying for the dead, especially the souls of givers, friends, and relatives. This was called souling. Soul cakes were also offered for souls themselves to eat, or the soulers would also act as representatives. As with the Lenten tradition of hot cross buns, soul cakes were often marked with a cross indicating they were baked as alms. I don't recall saying that, Latina, no. I'm gonna look that up though to see if that's true. I don't, I'm just gonna, I want to, whatever. Yes, that you are correct, Latina. I may have said it, but I don't recall reading that. A powerful mad dictator sends agents to kidnap the Pope, plunder his palace, and force him to resign in disgrace on trumped up charges. That may sound like a plot line in a contemporary action thriller, but it actually happened in 1303, a real life drama featuring King Philip IV of France and Pope Boniface. Yeah, that's really wild that they kidnapped Pope Boniface. Hashtag free Pope Boniface the Eighth. Okay, Latina. Thank you. She said, I didn't hear you say it because I left for a few, and I was just wondering if I had mentioned it. Latina, I didn't know that actually. I didn't know that happened. So I learned something new. Thank you. Some pictures. Like in Mexico. Most likely. I don't know for sure if that's Mexico. It might be somewhere else. But, I got to remember that people can look similar from different places. So I don't know. That is somewhere. Could be Mexico, could be in Asia. Or somewhere in South America. And that's the cross. The crucifix of Jesus. That was in Christians in some parts of the world visit cemeteries to pray for flowers and candles. Okay, that was in Bangladesh. It wasn't in Mexico. It was Bangladesh. But as I said, I just, all right, so that's where that really was. By the end of the 12th century, the celebration had become known as the Holy Days of Obligation. In Western Christianity, the involved such traditions as ringing church bells for the souls in purgatory. It was also Bang who? Ladesh? Family wasn't religious, and I went to a Baptist church, so all this is new to me. Oh, I'm glad to learn to something new. Yes, yes, Latina Lidesh. Yes. You should be a detective, Latina. For customary criers, dress in black in streets. All right. Groups of poor people, often children, would go door to door. So I already said that. All right. Shakespeare mentions souling in his comedy The Two Gentlemen of Verona, 1593. While souling, Christians would carry lanterns made of hollowed out turnips, which could have originally represented souls of the dead. Jack o' lanterns were used to ward off evil spirits on All Saints and All Souls Day. During the 19th century, candles were lit in homes in Ireland, Flanders, Bavaria, and Tyrol, where they were called soul lights that served to guide the souls back to visit their earthly homes. In many of these places, candles were also lit at graves on All Souls Day. In Brittany, libatoyons of milk were poured on the graves of kinfolk, or food would be left overnight on the dinner table for the returning souls, a custom also found in Tyrol and parts of Italy. Christian minister Prince Sorie, Sor, Sorie Conte linked the wearing of costumes to the belief in vengeful ghosts. It was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day, and All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving to the next world. In order to avoid being recognized by any soul that might be seeking such vengeance, people would don masks or costumes in the Middle Ages. Churches in Europe that were too poor to display relics of martyred saints at All Hallows Tide let parishioners dress up as saints instead. Some Christians observe this costume as at All Halloween Day. Leslie Benatine believes this could have been a Christianization of an earlier pagan custom. Many Christians in the mainland of Europe, especially in France, believed that once a year on Halloween, the dead of the churchyard rose for one wild, hideous carnival known as the Dance Macabre, which I talked about that before when we're talking about Nosferatu, which was often depicted in church decoration. Christopher Almond Rosamond McKentrick writes the New Cambridge Medieval History that Dance Macabre urged Christians not to forget the end of all earthly things. The Dance Macabre was sometimes enacted in European villages, pageants, and court masquerades. And no, this is something else. That's a masquerade. Let's see. Mask. Form of festival. Alright, anyway. With like a masquerade. That's basically what it is. Whoa. A court masquerade with people dressing up as corpses from various strata of society, and this made the origin of Halloween costume parties. In Britain, these costumes came under attack during the Reformation as Protestants berated purgatory as a popish doctrine and compatible with Calvinist doctrine of predestination. So you had these people that believed in predestination. So the Calvinists believe that God already chose people to go to heaven and hell. And what the Pope was saying about the purgatory thing didn't make sense because God already chose people to go to heaven or hell. And which Christianity would reject this because, that would take away the concept of free will. I believe God knows what's going to happen, but God didn't choose, people already. That's really sadistic way of thinking. It's like, what if all the Calvinists were not chosen? No, it's like God, whoever believes in him, Jesus, will not die but have everlasting life. That's what he said. That's what the scripture says. I mean, it's not about these, God, this person was chosen, that person was chosen. That is a deception. In purgatory, now, it depends on what type of Bible you read. Now, I believe that, you die and you believe in the Lord, you go to heaven. Now, I believe, if somebody was on an island somewhere and they didn't know who Jesus was, God would bless them. And, it's up to God to judge people about what they knew about him and what their situation was, okay? So it's not my decision, but Scripture says you go to heaven or hell. And, depending on different factors and believing in Jesus as your Lord and Savior, etc. Now, regarding purgatory, I've looked into it, and I was raised in a Catholic family, but as I got older, I like things from Protestantism, so I have a lot of stuff from Protestantism. At some point, I completely went into Protestantism, but as I said, I'm like some hybrid between both religions, because as I learned more about the Catholic stuff, not all of it to my personal self, no one else, was not, was okay with me. And so basically, I want to really study this stuff about what the Protestantism is good because of being Bible based and focusing on Scripture. I do think that's very important, that a lot of Catholics may not always focus on the Bible enough, but not that they're not illegitimate or anything, but it's good to be, I think both, the church traditions are good and the Bible is good too. I think balance of both is good. But regarding purgatory, okay, this is the story. There is a part of the Bible that talks about this area where pray for the souls of the dead. But if you look in any King James Bible, you'll not find it anywhere. So at some point, the King James Bible, they took books out of the King James Bible for some reason, and conveniently, the part of the Bible that talks about praying for the souls of the dead, they took it out. But as I said, this was back in the Old Testament. And so I don't know if that's still a thing now or not. This was before Jesus. It was in Maccabees. So yes, there is a part of the Bible that talks about a place where the souls go and to pray for those people there. I don't know if people still go there or not. But as I said, just that part of the Bible was taken out. In the Catholic Bible, they kept the books intact. But the Catholic Bible took out books that the book of Enoch, they took the book of Enoch out, the Catholic Bible. So there's another Bible, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, that has all the books in it. So there's the book of Enoch that was taken out that talks about aliens and about the fallen angels and the Nephilim more, and a bunch of other things. So that would be the complete Bible, because these people took out books. I agree with Latina. It's good to know about different religions. And I'm going to read what you said, Eugene, in a second. All right. Latina says, I think it's good to know about more than one religion, hands-on experience with the religion too. Amen. I do agree with that. I learned about all kinds of different religions, like the Eastern religions, like the Asian religions. I've learned about all the religions, even some of the evil ones. I'm not evil, but I've learned about all of them. And also, basically, so with regarding the purgatory thing, as I said, it's up to the person to believe what their interpretation of it. But I will say this though, I'm not here to talk bad about the King James Bible because the King James Bible is in Old English. And that is the most accurate English translation is the King James Bible. Because the King James Bible is not about the books it has in it, but the Old English is very important because our modern English, you could mix up stuff by the meaning of Scripture. You could mix it up. So there's a Catholic version of the King James Bible. So it's the Catholic Bible, but it's written in the King James Version. So it's written in Old English. Because the translation is just precise. For instance, Adam and Eve, the serpent told them, you will surely not die. But in the scripture of the King James Bible, ye will not die. Ye can be plural. So he was talking to Adam and Eve, but with the modern translations, you is not accurate because he was talking to both of them. But you might just be Adam or Eve, and what you would call a Bible pervert could go and just twist something around and make it for their own narrative to pervert Christianity. So the King James Version is very important. And I think all the Bibles are legitimate. They're all legitimate. They just all have their different strengths and other things that the other one may have, the other one doesn't have. And I think that the Protestants and Catholics should not be fighting each other. And that there's just different interpretations of Christianity. And that's fine. That's okay. People should just have their own traditions. As long as they believe the main basis of Christianity, it's, important. It's not like Islam or something, where it's totally different than what the mainstream Christianity were to believe, or any of the other Christian groups believe. Right. So, basically, that is a little bit of a summary about the stuff in this Halloween article I'm talking about. In Britain, these customs came under attack during the Reformation as Protestants berated purgatory as a popish doctrine, which they didn't realize that it came from the Old Testament of the Bible. But the Bible base did not figure out that it came from the Bible. It may not be, as I said, no more. It may not be a thing anymore. But it was at one time, and right, it didn't come from the Pope. It came from something from the Bible a long time ago. So the doctrine, incompatibility with Calvinist doctrine of predestination. But predestination is not, there's Protestants that don't have to believe in purgatory. I don't even know if it's really, still there or not. But as I said, the Calvinists, that's nothing to do with Jesus at all, because he said if you believe in him, anybody could believe in him. He didn't choose certain people to go to heaven or hell. That's very sadistic for a God to choose this group and that group. God didn't want anyone to go to hell. That was never his intentions. It was intended for the fallen angels. But humans chose to fall away right in the very beginning because a dude just had to eat a fruit. According to the Bible. Okay? People could have their own opinions about it, but Pandora's box was opened. Something happened. So all these different traditions talk about some Pandora's box was opened or somebody did something that messed up everything. I've studied about Confucius, about Buddha, and also Islam and those other religions too. But basically, like say Confucius and Jesus and Buddha, they all say similar things for some reason. It's very interesting. They say similar quotes. So yeah, studying the different religions is very important. So they believed in predestination. State-sanctioned ceremonies associated with intercession of saints and praying for souls in purgatory were abolished during the Elizabethan Reformation. though All Hallows Day remained English liturgical calendar to commemorate the saints as godly human beings. And yes, you're supposed to pray to God only. And that is great that people pray to God only, because you and God are a majority. You don't need to have anybody else to pray to or pray for. You. Now, also, if more than one person prays for you, it's good. Like in Scripture, Jesus said, if two of you pray, it'll be done. And also, basically, with the saints and Mary, some people may misinterpret this in the Catholic Church. They may have misinterpreted this because I do believe people saw stuff that they thought was not completely correct with the saints. But the intentions are the saints are in heaven or in some sort of place in God's presence. And if you ask them to pray for a certain cause in the spiritual realm, sort of like Star Wars, where you have the Force ghosts, and they would pray this cause for you, just like if you're to ask a friend to pray for you. But look, nobody has to practice that or anything. That's fine. You don't need to do that. You have people to pray for, you could pray to God, or you could ask your friends to pray for you. That's kind of like with the saints thing, like asking a friend to pray for you. That was the point of it. But as I said, they don't have to practice that. So there was the Bible, which is important, and that's the main instruction manual. But there was also an early church that succeeded Jesus, that wrote the Bible, and then it just went on, and it just went on to different generations. This doesn't mean a institution could be corrupted or things may not be right, but people don't have to follow these things in the Catholic Church. But as I said, it's important to know what the Catholics meant by the certain things they believed in, of course, just to make clear what they're actually believing in. They weren't trying to pray to the saint as a deity. They were now some people do that. They're not right to do that. Asking the saint to pray, to help pray for a cause or something, right? All right. But everybody has their own traditions, and that's okay. In the Elizabethan Reform, though All Hallows Day remained in English liturgical calendar to commemorate the saints as godly human beings, for some nonconformist Protestants, the theology All Hallows Eve was redefined as souls cannot be journeying from purgatory on their way to heaven, as Catholics frequently believe. And okay, read that again. So during Eve was refined, souls cannot be journeying from purgatory on their way to heaven, as Catholics frequently believe and assert. Instead, the so-called ghosts are thought to have actually be evil spirits. This is true. I will say this, that I'm sure there are ghosts of people, especially if someone had like a good experience and the person came to visit them or something. But that is right. Some ghosts may be fallen angels disguised as people that passed away to cause deception, to spook people. That's true. And if there are people from purgatory going to heaven, it's nothing that we would be able to see. It's just something that God in his divine realm would be able to witness. But it's not something for us to see. That's none of our business. So people saw spirits at Halloween, especially if they're causing distress or frightening people, it's an evil spirit. And, because the scripture says to test the spirit. You got to test it. It may be a good spirit, like an alien. There might be a good alien. You got to test the spirit. But there might be bad aliens. So that's how that works. Eugene says, your mind and heart must be one in prayer according to some gurus. My story before, I am certain it was a ghost, 'cause she wasn't there when I drove back, and there is nowhere for a person to go. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you. And I do believe in the supernatural realm. And, ABL talked about, he saw his uncle that passed away in Vietnam. May have visited him for a second. So, as I said, I do believe in the supernatural. I do believe if a ghost or something is causing someone a problem, It may be an evil spirit, maybe. Right. And continuing. Other Protestants believed in the intermediate state known as Hades, bosom of Abraham. In some localities, Catholics and Protestants continued souling candlelit state known as processions, or ringing church bells for the dead. The Anglican Church eventually suppressed this bell ringing. Mark Donley, a professor of medieval archaeology, and historian Daniel Dihel wrote that barns and homes were blessed to protect the people and livestock from effects of witches who were believed to accompany malignant spirits that traveled on the earth. And there is witchcraft, and there is, dark sorcerers that do dark magic and things like that, and those things are real, and there are witches and stuff out there. But I do think in Hollywood, and Holly weirdos in the media, that is where the witches and the demonic ones are the most right now. And it's not like a witch casting a spell. There are those people out there, and may the Lord bless us all from those people. But basically, the evil we see is the mass brainwashing of being against the country, religions, and all that is happening a different way. But yes, this also is true as well, in my opinion. Now, I'm related to various ancestors. Some of my ancestors were Protestant on both sides, and they married Catholic people. And they chose to convert to the religion, the Catholic faith. And a lot of times, like, you'll marry the Catholic, and then the kids are Catholic. That's like a requirement. But they chose to become Catholic. And so I'm related to Protestant and Catholic people. And in England, for instance, my family's Catholic, but England was traditionally a Protestant country. And what happened was, yes, I'm related to people, and some of my ancestors in England some of them were Italian, some of them were Irish and French. So some people I'm related to were from the Catholic countries, and the Anglican Church, my uncle told me, is very similar to the Catholic Church. So I'm related to the Irish too. Forgot to mention them. So I'm related to, the Church of England is very similar to the Catholic Church, so they probably attended each other's masses. Because from what the records I found, one of them, they went to like an Anglican church. So as I said, they went to their different churches because the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church are very similar. So that's why I have a mixed line of the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church in my bloodline, but they chose to be Catholic at some point when they married one of them, which is okay. So yes, I have a very diverse religious ancestry, but it's in Christianity. That my ancestors were, different Christian denominations. And Kamala sounds like a witch. She is a witch. Exactly. That is very true. The cackling witch. Yes, you're very right about that. Now, the thing is, though, the Protestantism that's like in America is more closer to the Scottish and Northern English influence. They weren't Calvinists, but influenced by some of the Calvinistic churches. They're called Presbyterian, but they're not Calvinists necessarily. But that is the group that went to America. The Presbyterians. They went to America. And so the type of Protestantism we have in America is not the Anglican Church, because the Puritans want to purify themselves in the Catholic Church. But the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church are nearly identical. That's why I was wondering, so that was why, because the Catholics were like the Church of England, but the although I am related to the Anglican Church. I mean, I'm related to the Presbyterian Church also. As I said, I'm related to all these different Christian denominations. It's really interesting. But yeah, so that was a mouthful. But anyway, yeah. So that is why my family on both sides are Catholic. My American family, I'm related to different people that came from Catholic countries and people that were Protestant that converted to the Catholic faith. Right. Wizard of Oz plays in the background. Yep. Yes. Yes, indeed. After 1605, Hallowtide was eclipsed in England by Guy Fawkes Night, 5 November, which appropriated some of its customs. In England, the ending of the official ceremonies related to the intercession of saints led to the development of new unofficial Hallowtide customs. In 18th century and 19th century, rural Lancashire, Catholic families gathered on hills on night on All Hallows Eve on the held bunch of burning straw on a pitchfork, while rest knelt around him praying for the souls of the relatives, friends, until the flames went out. This was known as the Tin Lay. There was a similar custom of Herefordshire. And the lightning of the Tyndall fires. In Derbyshire, some suggested these titles were originally lit to guide the poor souls back to earth. In Scotland and Ireland, old Hallowtide customs that were at odds with Reformed teachings were not suppressed, as they were important to the life cycle and rites of the passage of local communities, and curbing them would have been difficult. In parts of Italy, until the 15th century, families left a meal out for the ghosts of relatives before leaving for the church services. In 19th century Italy, churches stage theoretical reenactments of the scene from the lives of the saints on All Hallows Day, with participants representing by the realistic wax figures. In 1823, the graveyard of Holy Spirit Hospital of Rome presented a scene in which bodies of those who recently died were arrayed around wax statue of an angel who pointed upward towards heaven. In the same country, parish priests went house to house asking for small gifts of food which they shared among themselves. Throughout that night, in Spain, they continued to bake special pastries called bones of holy, huesos de santo, and set them on graves. A cemeteries in Spain, France, as well as Latin America, priests led Christian processions and services during All Hallowtide, after which people keep an all-night vigil. In 19th century San Sebastian, there was a procession to the city cemetery at All Hallowtide, an event that drew beggars who appeal the tender relocations of one's deceased relations and friends for sympathy. Eugene says a lot of supernatural activities in Virginia because of wars, especially the Civil War. Oh yeah, and I know about the Civil War, you know, and because although it was, split up, Virginia is a southern state too. It's a little ways from where I am, but it's southern, and yeah, there's a lot of ghosts up there. When I was in Kentucky, my mom's aunt and uncle lived in Kentucky at some point, and I went up there, and we went to the Civil War battleground, and Max the dog barked at something right next to me, and he was barking at stuff by the cannon, and so the ghosts were around there. And there's been videos of ghosts allegedly that have been caught on camera from there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Gaelic folk influences. Folk influence. Today's Halloween costumes are thought to have been influenced by folk costumes and beliefs from Celtic speaking countries, some of which are believed to have pagan roots. Jack Santino, a folklorist, writes, there was throughout Ireland an uneasy truce existing between customs and the beliefs associated with Christianity, and those associated with religions that were Irish before Christianity arrived. Origins of Halloween costumes are typically linked to Gaelic festival of Samhain. Samhain. That's an original mask. It looks like Diddy. Or Madonna with the plastic surgery. I'm getting there. Samhain is one of the quarter days in the medieval Gaelic calendar and has been celebrated on 31 October, 1 November. In Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, a kindred festival has been held by the Brittonic Celts called Callan Gaof. In Wales, Callan Gaof. In Cornwall, the Callan Gonv. In Brittany, a name meaning, quote, first day of winter. For the Celts, the day ended and began at sunset. Thus, the festival begins the evening before 1 November by the modern reckoning. Samhain is mentioned in some of the earliest Irish literature. The names have been used by historians to refer to Celtic Halloween costumes up until the 19th century and are still the Gaelic Welsh names for Halloween. Apple bobbing. Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and beginning of winter or the dark half of the year. It was seen as a liminal time when the boundary between this world and the other world thinned. This meant that ALC, the spirits of the fairies, could more easily come into this world and were particularly active. Most scholars see them as degraded versions of ancient gods. I agree with that. Like the fallen angels, whose power remained active in the people's minds even after they had been officially replaced by later religious beliefs. They were both respected and feared, with individuals also invoking the protection of God when approaching their dwellings, like, because they're like the fallen angels. At Samhain, the ASSV were appeased to ensure the people and livestock survived the winter. Offerings of food and drink or portions of the crops were left outside for them. The souls of the dead were also said to revise their homes, seeking hospitality. Places were set at dinner and table and by the fire to welcome them. The belief that souls of the dead return home on the night of the year and must be appeased seems to have ancient origins and is found in many cultures. In 19th century Ireland, candles would be lit and prayers formally offered to the souls of the dead. After this, eating, drinking, and games would begin. Snap, apple, snap, apple. Facts. Throughout Ireland and Britain, especially in the city speaking regions, the household festivals included divination rituals and games intended to foretell one's future, especially regarding death and marriage. Apples and nuts were often used, and customs included apple bobbing, nut roasting, scrying, or mirror gazing. What's scrying? Okay, fortune telling, or mirror gazing, pouring molten lead or egg whites into water, dream interpretation, and others. Special bonfires were lit, and there were rituals involving them. Their flames, smoke, and ashes were deemed to have protective and cleansing powers. In some places, torches lit from the bonfire were carried sunwise around homes and fields to protect them. It is suggested that the fires were a kind of imitative or sympathetic magic. They mimicked the sun and held the decay of darkness of winter. They were also used for divination and to ward off evil spirits. In Scotland, these bonfires and divination games were banned by the church elders. In some parishes in Wales, bonfires were also lit to prevent souls of the dead from falling to earth. That's deep. Later, these bonfires kept away the devil. Sympathetic magic, also known as imitative magic, is a type of magic based on imitation or correspondence. From at least the 16th century, the festival included mumming and guising in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Wales. This involved people going to house in costume or in disguise, usually reciting verses or songs, exchange for food. It may have originally been tradition whereby people impersonated the AOC or the souls of the dead and received offerings on their behalf, similar to souling. Impersonating these beings or wearing a disguise was also believed to protect oneself from them. In parts of the southern Ireland and geysers, including Hobby Horse, a man dressed as Liar Bahan, Whitemar, led youths house to house, reciting verses, some of which had pagan overtones in exchange for food. If the household donated food, it could expect good fortune from Macola. Not doing so would bring misfortune. In Scotland, youths went to house with masks, painted, or blackened faces. Often, I got it that time. Often threatening to do mischief, they were not welcomed. F. Moraine McNeill suggests the ancient festival included people in costume representing the spirits, and faces were marked or blackened with ashes from sacred bonfire. In parts of Wales, men went about dressed as fearsome beings called Grouchod. In the late 19th and early 20th century, young people in Glamorgan and Orkney cross-dressed. All right, so this is the original jack o' lantern. It looks kind of like a shrunken head. I know, I know. It's November already. But I'll say, guys and gals, we're in just some interesting stuff in 5 days. Okay, buckle up and pucker up and get ready for the election. Okay, that's gonna be that whoever wins or loses, it's gonna cause, in my opinion, it's gonna be civil unrest. In my opinion, okay, it's a countdown to a time bomb. In my opinion. Continuing. Elsewhere in Europe, mummying was part of other festivals, but in Celtic speaking regions, it was particularly appropriate to a night upon which supernatural beings were said to be abroad and could be imitated or warded off by human wanderers. for at least the 18th century, imitating malignant spirits led to playing pranks in Ireland and Scottish Highlands, wearing costumes and playing pranks on Halloween did not spread to England until the 20th century. Pranksters used hollowed out turnips and mangle wurzels as lanterns, often carved with grotesque faces. By those who made them, lanterns were variously said to representing the spirit, or used to ward off evil spirits. They were common in parts of Ireland and Scottish Highlands in the 19th century, as well as Summer Seat, Punky Night in the 20th century. They spread other parts of Britain and became generally known as Jack-o'-lanterns. Jack-o'-lanterns, Jack-o'-lanterns, Jack-o'-lanterns. Okay. So there you go. That's like a summary about what it's all about. And also, like for instance, like I was over here chilling. I was at school with my buddy talking about aliens. And then I spread it all over YouTube. And then that became like a big thing. So, but back in this time, it was people from other countries coming to America making their customs a contribution to their customs. It was very interesting how things spread. Now, there's a folklore about jack-o'-lanterns is Will-o'-the-Wisp. So Jack, he was doing something with... It actually talks about it right here in my face. Development of artifacts and symbols associated with Halloween formed over jack-o'-lanterns are traditionally carried by geysers on All Hallows Eve in order to frighten evil spirits. There is a popular Irish Christian folktale associated with jack-o'-lantern, in which folklore is said to represent a soul who has been denied entry into both heaven and hell. En route home after a night's drinking, Jack encounters the devil and tricks him into climbing a tree. A quick-thinking Jack etches a sign of the cross into the bark, thus trapping the devil. Jack strikes a bargain with that Satan can never claim his soul after a life of sin, drink, and mendicity. Jack is refused entry to heaven, where he dies, keeping his promise. The devil refuses to let Jack into hell, throws a live coal straight from the fire of hell at him. It was a cold night, so Jack places the coal in a hollowed-out turnip to stop it from going out, since which time Jack and his lantern have been roaming looking for a place to rest. Scared. I have stuff like that in my yard. You know, with these decorations. Yeah. In Ireland, Scotland, and northern England, the turnip has traditionally been carved during Halloween, but immigrants to North America used the native pumpkin, which is both much softer and much larger, making it easier to carve than a turnip. The American tradition of carving of pumpkins is recorded in 1837 and was originally associated with harvest time in general, not becoming specifically associated with Halloween until the mid to late 19th century. And modern imaginary imagery of Halloween comes from many sources, including Christian ohatology, national customs work of Gothic and horror literature, such as the novels of Frankenstein, the modern Prometheus, and Dracula, and classic horror films such as Frankenstein 1931 and The Mummy 1932. Imagery of the skull, a reference to Golgotha, and the Christian tradition serves as a reminder of death and the transitory quality of human life is consequently found in Memento Mori and Vanitas compositions. Skulls have therefore been commonplace in Halloween, which touches on this theme. Traditionally, the back walls of the church are decorated with the depictions of the Last Judgment, complete with graves. Churches and decorated with depiction of the Last Judgment, complete with graves, opening the dead rising with a heavy filled with angels and hell filled with devils. A motif that has been permitted the observance of this triduum. One of the earliest works of the subject of Halloween is from Scottish poet John Mayne, who in 1780 made note of pranks at Halloween. What a fearful pranks ensue, as well as a supernatural associated with night boggles, ghosts influencing Robert Burns' Halloween 1785. Elements of the autumn season, such as pumpkins, corn husks, and scarecrows, are also prevalent. Homes are often decorated with these types of symbols around Halloween. Halloween imagery includes themes of death, evil, and mythical monsters. Black cats, which have been associated with witches, are also common symbols of Halloween. Black, orange, and sometimes purple are Halloween's traditional colors. Trick or treating is a customary celebration for children on Halloween. Children go in costumes from house to house asking for treats, such as candy or sometimes money, with the question trick or treat. The word trick implies a threat to perform mischief on the homeowners on their property if no treat is given. The practice is said to have roots in medical practices, mummying, which closely related to souling. John Pym wrote that many of the feast days associated with presentation of mummying plays were celebrated by Christian church. These feast days, hello Bubbles, shout out to you, include All Hallows Eve, Christmas 12th nights, and Shrove Tuesday. Mummying practices in Germany, Scandinavia, and other parts of Europe involved masked persons in fancy dress who paraded the streets and entered houses to dance and play with dice in silence. In England from the medieval period up until 1930s, people practiced the Christian customs of souling on Halloween, which, yeah, facts, which involve groups of soulers, both Protestant and Catholic, going to parish, begging rich for soul cakes in exchange for praying for the souls of the givers and their friends. In Philippines, the practice of souling is called Plangganggaluawa, and is practiced on Hallows Eve among children in rural areas. People drape themselves white clothes representing souls and then visit houses where they sing in return for prayers and sweets. In Scotland and Ireland, guising children disguised in costume going from door to door for food coins is secular Halloween custom. It is recorded in Scotland at Halloween in 1895, where masqueraders in disguise carrying lanterns made out of scooped out turnips visit homes to be rewarded with cakes, fruit, and money. Ireland, most people phrase for kind of shout until 1920s was help the Halloween party. The practice of guising Halloween North America was first recorded in 1911. Newspapers in Kingston, Ontario, Canada reported children going guising around the neighborhood. American historian and author Adina Kelly, Massachusetts, wrote the first book-length History of Halloween in the U.S., the Book of Halloween in 1919, with reference to the souling of chapter of Halloween in America. In her book, Kelly touches the costumes that arrived from across the Atlantic Americas and have fostered them and are making this an occasion something like what it must have been its best days overseas. At Halloween, costumes in the United States are borrowed directly or adapted from those of other countries. All right. Nut roasting. This is some Halloween activities from 1919. And look what we're doing now. We're talking on a stream. These are some beautiful pumpkins. $9.99. That was before inflation. Yeah. I got a pumpkin right over there actually, and I have a Halloween cat that lights up. It's pretty cool. All right. Okay. That's a vigil. On Halloween in Poland, believers were once taught to pray out loud as they walked through the forest and under the souls and the dead might find comfort. In Spain, Christian priests in tiny villages tolled their church bells in order to remind their congregations to remember the dead on Hallows Eve. In Ireland, among immigrants in Canada, customs include Christian practices, absence, keeping All Hallows Eve and meat-free day, and serving pancakes in Col Canon instead. This looks really nice. It's Halloween scripture candy. Yeah, Halloween scripture candy. So cool. Y'all can see a little bit better here. See, look, it's Halloween scripture candy. Candy. That's pretty cool. I like how they combined Halloween with Jesus. That's pretty cool. Wrong thing. Hansel, alien spaceship, wrong page. That's the right page. Pumpkins are food. That is quite true. And this is the prayer from the Anglican Church on Halloween. So Christian attitudes are diverse. In Anglican Church, some dioceses have chosen to emphasize Christian traditions associated with All Hallows Eve. Some of these practices include praying, fasting, and attaining worship. I will do that, Latina. I will. This is the prayer. O Lord, increase, we pray, thee multiply upon us the gifts of thy grace, that we who do prevent the glorious festival of all thy saints may of thee be enabled joyfully to follow them in all virtuous and godly living. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who giveth and reigneth with thee in the unity of the Holy Ghost, ever one God, world without end. Amen. So that is the Halloween prayer. Other Protestant Christians also celebrate All Hallows Eve as Reformation Day, a day to remember the Protestant Reformation alongside All Hallows Eve or independently from it. This is because Martin Luther is said to have nailed his 95 thesis of to All Saints Church in Wittenberg. I am related to Lutherans, where I get the German name from. That line, he was Lutheran, the man that came here. My great grandfather, he was a Lutheran, but he married his wife's Catholic, which is and he converted, which is all good. Very similar, but a little bit different. But yeah, so I'm related to Lutherans. So that's how some of my ancestors became Lutheran. Dress up as Bible characters, reformers, in addition to distributing candy to children who are trick or treating on Halloween. Many Christians also provide gospel tracts to them. One organization, the American Tract Society, stated that around 3 million gospel tracts are ordered from them alone for Halloween celebrations. Others order Halloween-themed scripture candy to pass out to the children on this day. Some Christians feel concerned about the modern celebration of Halloween because they feel it trivializes or celebrates paganism, the occult, or other practices and cultural phenomena de- demand, deemed incompatible with their beliefs. Farther, Gabrielle Amorth, an exorcist in Rome, has said if English and American children like to dress up as witches and devils one night of the year, that is not a problem. If it's just a game, there is no harm in it. In more recent years, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston organized Saint Fest and Halloween. Similarly, many contemporary Protestant churches view Halloween as a fun event for children, holy event as their churches where children and their parents can dress up, play games, and get candy for free. To these children, Halloween holds no threat to the spiritual lives of children being taught about death and morality in ways of the Celtic ancestors actually being a viable life lesson and part of many of their parishioners' heritage. Christian minister Sam Portario wrote that Halloween is about using humor and ridicule to confront the power of death. A little bit more and then we'll be done. In the Roman Catholic Church, Halloween's Christian connection is acknowledged, and Halloween celebrations are common in many Catholic parochial schools such as the United States, while schools throughout Ireland also close to Halloween break. A few fundamentalist evangelical churches use hell houses and comic style tracks in order to make use of Halloween's popularity as opportunity for evangelism. Others consider Halloween to be completely incompatible with Christian faith due to its putative origins and the festival of the dead. Celebration indeed, through Eastern Orthodox Christians observe All Hallows Day, the first Sunday after Pentecost. The Eastern Orthodox Church recommends the observance of Vespers or a Paracelsis on the Western observance of All Hallows Eve out of the pastoral need to provide an alternative to popular celebrations. And this is in Judaism. According to Alfred Kolach, in the second Jewish book is in why Judaism, Halloween is not permitted by Jewish halakha because it violates Leviticus, which forbids the Jews from partaking in Gentile customs. Many Jews observe Yeskar communally 4 times a year, which is vaguely similar to the observance of All Hallows in the sense that prayers are said for both martyrs and for one's own family. Nevertheless, many American Jews celebrate Halloween disconnected from the Christian origins. Reform Rabbi Goldwasser has said that there is no religious reason why contemporary Jews should not celebrate Halloween, while Orthodox, so in Judaism there's different factions of them. And, I think that when they say Gentile, it has to do with the pagan origins. And back in the ancient times, they were the only group that believed in our Lord. And which I'm talking about, before he came into human flesh. Jesus stated they rejected, but God, they believed in God, but all the other groups didn't. So Halloween is and these things had to do with all these other groups, these other people were heathens. They didn't believe in God. So they had to protect themselves and stay away from that. Similar how we would stay away from somebody playing with an Ouija board or something. So that is why they would distance themselves from that, in my opinion. But this is extremely orthodox view of it. Not all Jews are like that, because a lot of Jews are like, say, do not, they would celebrate Halloween like it says in his article, because they understand it's just a fun activity for kids and everybody to do. So there are Jews that obviously celebrate Halloween, but the ultra orthodox Jews, they really are going to be stiff necked about the Halloween thing. But shout out to them; they're cool people. Or as I said, everybody has their own traditions and cultures. Yeah. In Islam, Sheikh Duris Palmer, author of All Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam, has ruled that Muslims should not participate in Halloween, stating that participants in Halloween is worse than participating in Christmas or Easter. So in Islam, participating in Halloween is worse than participating in Christmas and Easter. I mean, yeah, Christmas and Easter are some really demonic holidays, you know what I mean? They're, it's kind of like, I don't know, it sounds kind of strange, but it is more sinful than congratulating the Christians for their prostration of the crucifix. Congratulating the Christians for their prostration of the crucifix. They don't like that either. Like I was telling y'all about vampires, they don't like the crucifix. They don't like Christmas or Easter either. Interesting. It has also been ruled to be haram by National Fatwa Council of Malaysia because of its alleged pagan roots, stating Halloween is celebrated using humorous themed mixed with horror and entertain to resist the spirit of death influenced by humans. Dar al Lift al Misariya. This disagrees. He disagrees. So as I said, in Islam you're going to have different factions. He disagrees, provided the celebration is not referred to as an Eid and the behavior remains in line with Islamic principles. So as I said, and I knew Muslims that are fine, good people that are just like us. But as I said, these ultra orthodox factions will see things really in an extreme way. But Islam, like you'll have some scholars that say it's nothing wrong. It's all good. Because it just, people to have fun and have a good time. It's a celebration. And so, shout out to those Muslims and, that are not extremists. But yeah. But as I said, so you see the difference here. In Judaism and Leviticus, back in the ancient times, way back, the times of Moses, they needed to keep themselves away from all of us that were pagan, that were heathens, and to stay close to the Lord. But you see this other group, they're extremists. They don't, they really don't like anything in Christianity. The other group is just trying to, like, all of the different practices from the pagan era, that was something that they were not required to practice. But as I said, this group, it can't be Christmas, you can't do Easter. Now, Judaism doesn't celebrate those either, but they don't really seem to get too offended by them. And so, as I said, these different religions have different views on things. I will say Christianity is very open to, open-minded to different people than any other religion on earth. Shout out to Ashim, and no, shout out to Amish and Mennonites. Right on. Shout out to them. And you see, I think Christianity, it seems very open to different religions and people. And I'm not against those other religions, peace be upon them. But for Christianity, I'm glad that I'm a Christian. And I got to experience all these different things. In Hinduism, remember the dead. In Hindus remember the dead during the festival of Pitru Pakasha, during which Hindus pay homage and perform ceremony to keep the souls of their ancestors at rest. It is celebrated in the Hindu month of Bahada, usually mid-September. The celebration Hindu festival of Dil Wilayah sometimes conflicts with the date of Halloween, but some Hindus choose to participate in the popular customs of Halloween. Other Hindus, such as Soimaya Dasgapata, have opposed the celebration on grounds the Western holidays like Halloween have begun to adversely affect indigenous festivals. There is no consistent rule view of Halloween amongst the pagans. Neo-pagans are Wiccans. Some neo-pagans do not observe Halloween, but instead Samhain on November 1st. So right now, it's Samhain. Right now. We're in it right now. It is marking the harvest season and beginning the winter or darker half the year. It is the Irish language. Alright, peace, Latina. I'm about to end it anyway. Good night. The year is the Irish language. November celebrations begin on the evening of 31 October since the Celtic day ended on sunset. November 1st. Some neo-pagans do enjoy Halloween and festivals. Alright. So that, as I said, I'm about to end it. Alright. It's over with. So tonight we talked about Halloween, talked about some movies, and we talked about some different stuff. And basically tomorrow we'll be continuing to talk about spooky topics for a little while for the people that weren't here. And some Halloween stuff, probably. And we will now be switching over to the other window. Because as I said, I was going to end it. And I did end it. Alright. So all of you all watching, listening, seeing this as a rerun, I appreciate all of you for coming here and spending time with me for this sort of surprise-ish Halloween live. But I usually go live on Thursday, but there's other parts of the spaceship that needed an alien to be around. So everybody has a good night and happy Halloween and Samhain. Take care of everybody. Take care, everybody. And peace.